Hello and welcome to my video material about painting the loose project. So as you can see, I've worked a little on the base. I think that the back side, the whole wall and the rosetta is painted. Yeah, I will add some like streaks of running, like weathering, like water being impacting this element, and just like some streaks of dirt and stuff. Yeah, I want to like weather the whole scene so that it looks like a post-apocalyptic building or something like this. The whole like climate of the whole universe of Louis Roya is like this. If you look at it, like it's a destroyed world, very very post-apocalyptic. So I imagine that like the whole window, everything would be like dirty, stained and stuff. Yeah, so I've painted the whole rosetta, but like I want to make it like less impactful and push it into the background, so that's why all the colors are muted, everything is muted, so I will expose the miniature much more. The next thing is that from the start I was telling you that I will limit the light, yeah? So you can see that the upper part of the rosetta is a little more blue, and the lower part here it's starting to also be blue. And on this side I will also like add that shadow like that is cast from the building, yeah. So here you have parts of blue, but also here there will be some, and this whole side of the building will be bluish, so just lit by that additional like blue light from the atmosphere. So that's something I want to do. And the first thing I've done was like to mix that color. You have something like this, yeah. So it's a direct combination of two colors. It's red oxide and phthalo blue green shade, and it behaves something like this. If you add a little more blue, it will be just exactly like red oxide, the color that I just like to use. So you can see it just by comparison. Yeah, it's very similar. Yeah, so that's something I want to use. And also I'm like burning through my bottle of Brinax Hide, so probably I won't end up like using too much of it. The next thing you have here is like the darker color, something like blue, more blue, it's just darker. And here you have just like pure blue. And then we have this color. It's a mixture of this one and brown gray. Here it's brown gray, mixed with some small hints of blue. Here I've mixed more of it, like to have something like this, and I'm slowly starting to add blue to this mix, yeah. So it is less browny, more like medium gray. And then we have something like graphite, and graphite mixed with brown gray, but it's more like graphite, yeah. And here at the end we have that pastel Arctic blue, yeah. So those are the colors I'll be using. You can see I'm not using white. It's not needed because we want to lower the contrast on the whole building. If at the end I will think that the middle of the scene doesn't attract that much attention, maybe I will add something brighter, yeah, maybe a little more white, yeah. So just to make it brighter. I think this would like impact the scene. But I have to position the miniature so I can see how it behaves on the whole scene, and how I can limit the view. And also probably at the end when I'm touching the miniature, I will also like paint a little of that cast shadow from her, because she should have something like close to her legs. Like probably if you look at the miniature, it would be let's hope it focused. Okay, it will be like here are her legs, so you will see a little of cast shadow here on that side of the building. Yeah, that's something I want to show, but I have to attach the miniature, and then like with the miniature attached I have to like add it here, like just shade it a little, just to show that she's like standing on the building. So that's something I want to do. But today I wanted to focus on this side of the building, just to show you how I will texture it and just how to add some shadows, so we can see how it's done. It's a very fast process. I will be using a very big brush. Like if you look at close-up photos of buildings, they are very rough, yeah. Especially if it's like a stone wall, you can use a very rough texture to convey that feeling, like of it being like a stone, because it has its own coloration. It has like different additions, yeah. Each like stone rock isn't fully perfect one color. It has like coloration, it has like stains, spots and stuff, especially if it's like old and weathered. So we can use more of that like dot or like some lines of just painting cracks and stuff, and without being very smooth, because we want to convey that like feeling of the rock, not the feeling of like a super smooth surface, yeah. So and also it will be a nice comparison because the miniature is way more smooth, yeah. Still, I've used a lot of texture on her, but you could see the difference, yeah, in materials. So that's something I want to do here. So first off, like I told you, I've covered the whole miniature with this color, with this brown that I've mixed, and then I've washed it with like it was a mixture of like a GW Agrax edge shade. Yeah, it's a commonly used shade, but I've added some blue to it, yeah. It was like a blue ink, so that's why in some cases, like in the shadows, the shadows shine a little, but I will like diminish it a little in the end, because the ink made it shine just a little. So okay, so we have this, and you can see that it's washed. It has that bluish tint to it, so I wanted the shadows to be blue. That's why the addition. So we will take a bigger brush. I'm taking a very more worn brush. It's a size 2 Da Vinci brush, but like it has sort of a tip, but not that perfect tip that I want. So I'm using it for like more like texturing and stuff. And let's get on with it. Yeah. So let's focus on those like parts. So we have to reapply that color. The one thing I haven't taken on the palette, it's like the medium. Sometimes I have to take it. It's not always, but sometimes, yeah. Especially if you want the paint to be like more running from the brush, or like more diluted. Now we are using less diluted paints, but sometimes I will use it. So we have this, and like let's try to like paint it with dots. Yeah, you can see it will be like a slow process, but we have to fill all those surfaces. Yeah, maybe just to position my hand a little better. So, you know, I know that it's probably more like a Spanish style of painting, like just with dots and stuff, like just like without polishing it. But still, I think for this, like it depicts that that feeling of the rock, yeah, just like different coloration, different spots, stains, and stuff, yeah. That's something I want to add here on this miniature. It will look way better this way, yeah. And we just like instantly try to concentrate on the cracks of the sculpture. Yeah? We have shaded it so you can see the difference, the shadows. And like for such a big scene, it's like it's good to use something like a wash or something like this, yeah, because it's large, yeah. So it will make the process way faster. On a miniature, normally I don't use stuff like this because I want more control. But here, with such a big surface, it would take ages to do it like manually, and like still the effect is very good and sufficient, and especially for a very like random textured rock, it is cool, yeah. So you can see I'm like filling the shadows, yeah. So, filling the surfaces with that brown tone. Like I'm maybe reapplying a little of it because like the wash like shaded everything, yeah, just like changed the colors of everything. So we have to reapply that base, and I want that like contrast of the like a little brown shadow midtone, yeah, to the bluish and highlights and shadows, yeah. So it's a difference. If you look like at rocks, they have different colorations. Sometimes even green, sometimes different stuff. Sometimes rusty, sometimes earthy. So you can use different colors. It's not that something like I would use like this now. And also, it also is important if you look at a rock that it's like cracked, like worn, or like let's say like cracked in half or something like this. You can see that the crack will be way more brighter. It's powdery and stuff, and so that's why it's brighter. So we also can incorporate this, yeah? So just like to add some stuff. Maybe at the end I will also think maybe just adding a little of pigment with a pigment fixer, just to like change some stuff, just to add more detail, like powdery dust or something like this. But like very small surfaces, like you can easily overdo using just the pigments, yeah? And it won't look good, yeah? So you can see like it's a fast process, yeah? I'm just covering the surface. We can paint something bigger. I'm not minding that the miniature will be standing here later on. It's not possible for me just to like see how the shadows will behave. So later on I will just like stipple on the shadows with the darker tones and just like paint them a little more with the like bluish light. And the bluish light, like it's the same process for the whole miniature. So like in earlier stages, like on the character, I was adding like on the back of her, I was adding just like the additions of blue to all of the like mixes that I used, yeah? So here will be the same. We are just changing the color of the surface with the color of the light. So that's very important. The bottom part I don't want to paint that much, yeah? I would just like paint a little, because in the end we can like darken it with blue. So I will do it like when doing the rest, I will just like then just darken it this part of the whole, so you can see how it works, yeah? We want to limit the view, we want to limit the scene, how it looks, yeah? And also like try to look from the one direction, so it will show the direction of the light, yeah? It's the direction of the light also is visible on the Rosetta. I just painted it from one direction. The shadows were filled with just like the bluish tones. So it's important like for the whole scene just to like have that flow of light, yeah? That's why it's a little tricky to paint something that is like in parts. You can see how the light behaves like fully on the whole scene, yeah? And also we can see that the reason for me using like a worn brush. I can like be very taxating. It can be taxating for the brush, so just like painting with a bigger dot, it's okay, but just take a bigger brush, yeah? Also here, the upper part of this, like, it's not a gargoyle, but like it's a building decoration. Maybe just a little from this side. On this side we can modify with something bluish. Just on the bottom. Don't be scared of using like a fully saturated blue. This one probably is even too strong, yeah? So you can like lower the saturation a little. Just like mixing it with brown, so that's why I've mixed it earlier. I was using this blue or the blue from the navy blue. If you want something like softer, the navy blue would be better, like a normal paint, because like the paints from Chimera are, like have a very high saturation, so you have to be like mindful of this, just not to overdo it, yeah. And you can see I'm like filling the shadows just a little bit, maybe just here in that place where the parts of the building combine. And also here we can really apply a little of that stronger blue just to separate those elements, yeah. If I end up like just like, sorry, that was bad, but we can cover it. Yeah, just like with the tip of the brush. I know that normally I'm very meticulous, like when painting, so this is more like being a little more wild. And let's just like fix this just a little. And you can see that blue, like, it's barely visible. Like if it's dry, it's not that visible, yeah? Okay, and let's apply this here. You can see that it mixed, so we have to clean the brush, because like the brown wasn't that dominant because of the additions of blue on the brush. The paint mixed on the brush, so it's good to clean it. Yeah, it's stormy weather today in Poland, so even if it's hot, and then we will have like severe rain drop and just like lightning and stuff. So I hope I will manage to finish this before like it hits. Yeah, so you can see there's just like random stuff, yeah, and also accenting those edges, like it's good. Yeah, sometimes even if you don't cover everything, it's okay. Like leave it to chance. Like I think the best example of something like this was when painting the orc head. I still think, I don't know, like not too many people have seen this material actually. That's weird, but okay. But I still think like that material, about just textures, about the skin, everything, it's very cool. Yeah? Because like even here, yeah, from just like random brush strokes, you have some patterns, yeah, and then just you can like expose them later on with just like additional like highlights and stuff. But it's good to learn to paint this way, like just to keep an open mind and just like letting the brush do its work, yeah, and then just like using the effect and just like boosting it, yeah, just like making it more like prominent. Okay, I think here I haven't touched the surface. Yeah, so that's something like this. And maybe on the upper part also we can like add. Probably I would have to paint it like looking from the up, like from above the miniature. So maybe we'll cover it just a little, but I will finish it later, because like you have to have a good view, because like it's a round element, yeah. But just like for the purposes of the camera focusing, I will just like focus on this view, so you can see the effect, yeah. So okay, we have this something that we've like added the tone. You can see the difference, yeah. It's more brown, and now we can start adding just the highlight, yeah. Just making it brighter. Maybe it's not the highlight, but we are closing to maybe something like mid-tone, yeah. Still, we can cover more surface, but with future highlights, like with the brighter tones, I will focus mainly on the edges, yeah. Now we can just like cover a little more surface, and then just like be also like very like, yeah, random. But try to expose the cracks, yeah. If you paint something similar like a rocky base or something like this, do it with a stippling like this. I think like it's way better than to paint it with dry brush. Of course, dry brush is way faster, but you would have to do like a very delicate dry brush. Of course, people can do it and it's like a good effect, but still, I think this is more controlled, and it's not that slow. Yeah, it's quite fast. Yeah, and believe me that like this base is big. Yeah, normally. And it would be better just to paint it with a dry brush, but like the extra effort, it's way worth it, yeah. Especially if you want to paint the light source on a miniature, yeah. You just have to control it a little more, yeah. The dry brush will be a little less controlled, yeah. So I'm trying to show that like raised part here, yeah, because like it's a cylinder shape, yeah. And at any point, if you think that the difference between like the dots is too big, you can go back to the previous shade and just shade it a little. Yeah, I tried to mix the transitions from the paints quite nicely, so there's not that much difference. As always in my mixtures, but sometimes it can happen. So just like go back and just blend it a little. Yeah, it won't be that much work, believe me. Take a little more paint. If you want, then also you can like open some references of just like rock, like rocky buildings, like built from blocks of rock. Yeah, mostly it was like medieval buildings or something like this, and yeah, it will be very irregular. Yeah, here we have like a big difference. So like I can go back a little and just like polish it a little. Here I had too much blue, and maybe let's take something of that. Yeah, just somewhere in the middle. Yeah, just to cover that the difference. Yeah, let's take a little of that grayish color and just blend it together. At this stage we can like be more cautious about this, and later on we can make even more bold brush strokes and they will defend themselves. Yeah, so it's not a problem. Here it will be like an element glued, but like still we'll see how it works later on, because like we can add more shadows of it. The difficult part here will be just like adding the shadow, but I think like it's well worth the effort, because it will add much more of the contrast of the warm brown colors to the blue colors. And like I'm basing this miniature about it, yeah, just like the whole scene should show that contrast. So I have to be consistent in the end, yeah. If I don't end up like painting the cast shadows from her or from the cross just a little bit, yeah, or from the like the roof here, it will look like it's half done, yeah. And we don't want this, yeah. We want it to be like a very coherent scene. Like my biggest aim for this scene was just to like paint a miniature. Maybe you could like I could like use more warm color for the highlight, but I imagined her being like in a gloomy atmosphere. It wouldn't be a sunlight or something like this, just like a light from the sky, maybe something through this like not artificial, but showing like a direction, and then just like an additional bluish light, skylight, yeah. Maybe sun shining through the clouds, something like this, yeah, you know, just to show like a kind of atmosphere. Still we have like a too big difference. You can see with a bigger brush with very thin layers we can like just like polish it a little. Yeah, something like this. Okay, so we have this like layer. You can now concentrate on something like a mixture of this color and this color. Probably this here would be like a too big difference, so you have to do it like more in steps. And I will slowly try to accent more of the raised part of each of those elements, like to show that cylinder shape, and also the edges of each of those cracks. So we are limiting the surface of the highlights. So like from now on the work will be a little faster, so because we have to paint less surface. And that's important, yeah? Just like you have to show that highlight, yeah? Have to mix this one because like it's a little weird. I stopped using a lot of my scale paints, yeah? Because like I like them, but still I mix a lot. And some of them are like standing for too long, and sometimes when you get them you have to like shake them pretty well just to mix the pigment with the medium, and sometimes still like they separate. So I think that's the biggest benefit of having not too many paints, like you just use them. And for me the biggest problem here now is like I have a lot of them. Maybe not, I've seen people having more, but like I try not to buy new brands, like new stuff. Like I've seen like the AK paints, the new AK third wave being like used by a lot of people. I've seen the how was the word they called? I think like a regiment, something like the paints in the bottles. Like it was like a new wave, like of people trying them. But Abteilung or something like this, yeah. But I haven't tried them, and I won't probably, because like I'm used to those that I'm using right now. And I think I will stick to painting with some small additions of GW for some things, yeah. But mostly with scale and mostly with Chimera. I even recently got the new Chimera set, the artist sets, like the Michał Pisarski one and stuff, and there's like a nice selection of colors. It's not something that I wouldn't mix myself, but like when being lazy I could just use those, and those are a good like wide selection, because like in the set of Dalinio Cartacci that you have some skin tone colors that normally you would have to like mix from Chimera. That's why I'm using the colors from Scale, even Scale Artists, yeah, because there are some skin colors that I'm using like constantly, yeah. So that's something that I want to like keep on doing, yeah. Have to remix a little of this because we've used a little of this paint, and there's not much left. So yeah, I think the color selections are like, honestly I would probably like mix everything from scratch right now. Like it would be better in like an artistic way, just to take the primary colors for the composition that you're using and mixing everything from them. And probably I will like try to mix to paint miniatures like this in the future. It will be more challenging like for you to watch probably, just to mix the same, but honestly when someone mixes colors, don't mind it. Like it's more like getting the general feel, the vibe that he wants, that person wants to convey, even if you are following this, like for example like my stuff. In the end you will mix your own something similar but your own colors, and it's nothing bad about it, yeah. It will be just your version of it, yeah. And also you are practicing that perception of color for yourself, yeah. So be just open-minded on mixing colors. It's well worth to do it. In the end you will see like a better understanding of your or in your work you will see a better understanding of color, yeah. That's something you want to keep and convey. Okay, I think like slowly we are like going to the point where I should like take a smaller brush, just to have a smaller dot, because like sometimes the dots are very like irregular and stuff, and I end up butchering the blending. Okay? If you have a smaller brush, it will be way softer and better. So I'm jumping to a smaller one, from size 2 to size 1. Yeah. So so it will have like a smaller dot. I think with this layer we'll just use this brush, but even with the future layers I will try to use even a smaller one. I think here it's like okay. And when stippling, like you can jump through the brush sizes just to achieve like a more delicate stippling. And it's get better to go from like bigger dots to smaller ones, and you will see it's easier to do it. Yeah. Here I think it's like you can see that it's too much of that like grayish tone. I would have to reapply a little more. Though those parts look more like brown and better in my opinion. So you can go back and just like change it a little. Yeah, it's getting better. We are adding that like the feeling of roundness back again. And it's cool because like for this we can like, you don't have to go into the small details, you know, just like mark them, yeah, like those like small cracks and stuff, yeah. We'll leave like a darker spot here. We could add maybe some like something sticking out, but that's it. And the lower I will get, I will try to like limit the highlights, so we can like add it a little here, but later on we will have to like go back with the bluish tones and just like cover it. Also, if you end up highlighting in that space and then we will like filter it a little, still that highlight will be visible, but like muted by the blue, and like also a little, it will help a little. And we can like also concentrate a little on the edges, just to show that edge of the like each tile from the roof, yeah. Also, as I talked earlier, if you are stippling, sometimes it's good to have like a very random brush, like completely worn, but for some cases it will like generate a very random texture, and like if you start from it and then just like go into detail and just like paint some small like lines and or just like accent the edges of that random texture, it will generate something that's cool. I've seen like some cool materials like from like a Spanish painter, that he was using like a completely destroyed worn brush to firstly like sketch and just generate like a worn leather texture, and then he used like a normal small brush just to like accent it, yeah. But he had something like a plan, yeah. Like a random texture, and it was very fast probably, like just to paint this, yeah. So you can see we had to the possibility with working with a bigger brush. We just had like a better, bigger coverage. It was faster to do some stuff, but now we have to go into like the detail and stuff. So still we are covering less surface, but like we have to take more like cautious brush strokes. Yeah, just like the dots have to be well placed. You're just trying to accent that texture. It's a cool and peaceful process, honestly. Like the whole miniature for me was like a very relaxing miniature, yeah. Because like I could like play around with the texture with the like random brush strokes. I didn't have to be like very smooth, and in some cases I would have to, but like the balance of it, like you had a lot of like also textured surfaces, and that's something good because like it generates that contrast and stuff, but also it's fun to work with, yeah. Like the blending, I know that like I use a lot of it, like it's like a hallmark of my work, but also like it can tire you, yeah. Like it's a very repetitive process. It's less about just like thinking actively on like the thing you're painting, but just like blending it, yeah, making it polished, yeah. And it's well worth the effort, but not everywhere on the miniature. Yeah, there are some places, some like materials that you can show that don't need that blending. Yeah? It can be a little more random. Yeah. Okay, so slowly see that we are generating too much difference. Like in some places we will have to like polish it a little. Sometimes like the paint is laying too long on the palette, and also like it separates. So that's why I try to mix the paint, but later on if it separates, it leaves like a brighter mark, like more of the matte medium is visible, yeah, and it's not good. Have to finish this today, and probably the miniature will be finished today, because like that's my target lately. I try to step up my game and just like be faster at work, to just paint more miniatures, because like my biggest problem was just like focusing on work, yeah? Just like having that focus and just like working, and there's a lot of things that are like diminishing that focus, yeah. It's too much media and stuff, so I have to separate myself from everything just to like work faster, to be just like more effective. Sometimes it's needed. So that's why I maybe have less time for like let's say talking with people, yeah. I think it's a good trait. And honestly, I like to talk with people live than just write. Okay, so let's like blend it just a little in some cases, yeah. Here it was way better. Here it's worse. Don't try to use like a normal brush strokes, yeah. Just paint it with like just tapping, like with just like the random dot. If you use like brush strokes, it will blend it too much, yeah. You want to make it a little more raw. Okay. So you see, like it is a little more polished, yeah? Just like a random brush strokes, just like a free brush movement, just to like polish the edges, just a little. Here we can use that pure brown. So maybe here. Yeah. Okay. Let's go back to the brighter tone and just like paint some highlights here on those elements. Accent that crack here, just like to. And I think a lot of painters work like this way right now, if you look at the effects, but sometimes they just work like this on the whole miniature, yeah? And for me, I won't say it's bad, like it generates like a feeling or something, yeah? You just work more on like general concept and just like focus on the blending part, but still like sometimes you need that diversity of surface. Yeah? Some surfaces should be like smoother, some surfaces can be like more rough. Okay, and yeah, we can see like a big difference here, so we have to like shade it just a little, just on the bottom. Something like this, yeah? Just to reapply that color. Okay, and in a second I will jump to a smaller brush and try to like fill in the small details. So you can see that like it starts to work again with the whole scene. And also, like for the bottom part, I think I will just accent some small edges, but I will focus more on the upper part now. So let's make it brighter and just way more detailed, yeah? So as I told you earlier, like this is a small size brush like, compared to something like a size 0. I know it's size 1, but like the green stuff brushes are sharper, like thinner. And you can see I'm like focusing on the edges more. And in the center of each tile. So we are building up contrast. So very often I encounter people that just like are afraid of contrast. Yeah, like most often I would just tell everyone just like to overdo it like at first, and if you think that it's like too bright, you can like diminish it a little, just like shade it a little or something. Yeah, but be open. Yeah, if you sometimes just like it's better to be very bold and then open and just like do a highly contrasted work. And in time you will see that maybe it was too much or something, yeah. So you can change it, like and control the contrast a little more, yeah. Like it helps just to think about the bigger scene, yeah. Here that the biggest contrast should be here on the whole cross and stuff, yeah. Probably end up just adding a little more contrast on the Rosetta even in the end. But I have to look on the whole scene when it's fully assembled and with the shading and stuff, yeah, how it looks, how the focus points look, yeah. Probably I will end up like doing a separate material. When I finish painting the whole building, I will attach the miniature and then record something like a summary, but also we can think about how it works and maybe add some small changes to make it better, yeah. So you can see my thought process and stuff, yeah. I think it could be cool for you. And also now you can see that contrast, like the color that we are adding now, it's more like gray or like even blue-gray. So that blue-gray works pretty well with the brown tone. And it accents it, yeah. So we have like the contrast of brightness, but also contrast of temperature. It's good to play around with temperature. And I can see now we can accent all of the cracks. And sometimes in the shadows you can also add some random like dots. It will generate like a rough surface, like something being like visible here, yeah? And also, like with a smaller brush, it's more forgiving, it's easier to blend. Like the small dot, even if it's too bright, it will like blend in much better than a big dot, yeah? So just remember about this when just like doing stuff like this, yeah? Yeah, so you can see we are adding more light, and I think in this part we can go back a little to the previous tone just to mix it together so it won't be that prominent. Just a little on the edge of each of those. Okay. Yeah. And so always remember about the bigger picture. That's why I'm like trying to limit the highlights on the back of this roof and also on the bottom. And also I will limit it a little more with just like the additions of blue. But let me fix it, just like finish it a little more, and we can go back to those areas and just like reapply a little of the blue tone that we've covered from the front, from the start. Sorry. On the front of this building we can go like brighter, so we want to show that perspective, so the whole front here on this part will be just brighter. Yeah? We can go to the like a very bright tone and to generate a big contrast and a big focus point, because like here in this part the miniature will be like visible, and also the miniature has like a higher contrast, especially the hair and the sword, so we want to generate like a coherent focus point. Yeah. I treat the whole base like a big background. Yeah, it's not something that I want to show like per se, like it's just a background, like something for an illustration. Like most of the time on illustrations you will see like something in the background, yeah, like a piece of terrain, like a landmark or something. Yeah, but most of the time it's a little muted, like it's a little less finished. Yeah, in some works, and this generates that feeling of focus. Yeah. And that's something very important to my work. Probably for yours also should be important. Yeah, like if I would end up like overdoing the whole Rosetta, like making it too detailed, too polished, yeah, then probably it will attract the same attention as the miniature, and I don't want this. Yeah, I want to show the miniature. I don't want to show the whole scene. It's more like secondary. It's a secondary thing for me. Yeah. Okay, so now let's go even brighter, yeah, and just like try to focusing on the elements here, on the front and the upper part of the building, yeah. And you can see how delicate we can be right now, like with just small brush strokes, yeah. Sorry, dots, yeah. If you do it with a sharper brush, it will be even a smaller dot, yeah. So it will be way more detailed, yeah. But there's a degree of detail you want to add here. If you would end up like doing too small brush dots, yeah, then it will be too polished. It will be looking more like it's soft. And then it's rough, yeah. So we want that rough texture, so it should be a little more like a bigger dot, yeah. And I think that's about the textures. In general, we want the textures to be different, yeah. Just like using different pressure on the brush, just smaller, bigger brush strokes, more bold lines, yeah. it generates a different feeling, because like in this scale you won't have to paint that whole like surface, yeah, just that feeling. You have to paint that full texture, but you have to paint like a certain feeling, just to show like a something that it's resembling the reality, because it's a smaller scale. You can't paint all the details, and it's not necessary, in my opinion. Yeah. Yeah. I think at this stage it's done. Yeah? If you look at the whole scene, you have that more focus, and here the bottom is just darker. Yeah, that's something we wanted to show. And now let's go to painting it with the bluish additions. So you can see that on the palette I have something like this, and I will try to add that blue to those colors that I was using earlier. Then I generate something like this. I have the color like similar here. But with this color we can tap everything here in the shadows, yeah? I'll have to take that other blue that I was using earlier. Probably this one will be too strong for it, just to glaze it, and just like to add that color. Now we can like add the highlight, but it's bluish, still on the bottom, but we have to like change the temperature. So in a second I will also have to mix a little more paint, and just to darken everything here, yeah, just with blue. Yeah, something like this. So you can see still like it's a highlight, yeah. We want to add more of the blue. So for this we'll be taking the navy blue. It's not that strong as the Chimera paint. Chimera paint would like change the color pretty significantly. We can try it, like just for example, you can see, sorry, not this blue, I haven't used this one. Okay. Oh, there it goes. And let's dilute this one a little more, so you can see it's way more watery. And a little of this one. You can see maybe here, this one is darker. Yeah, it's not that saturated. Like that's something that we want. Yeah, we can darken this one by adding brown. Yeah, let's see here. I'm just adding a little more brown, and you can see that it's getting darker because we are adding something like it's complementary color. Yeah. Still now it got dark, yeah? Because like we've added too much. But those are the things you can do. Yeah? Just remember about it. Yeah? Complementary colors for like changing the temperature and making something darker also helps, especially for blue. And you can see, maybe hope here, yeah, we can dilute it pretty heavily, just to achieve a filter of color. If at any point you think that it's too much, you can go back to the brown tones and just blend the difference a little more. Sorry, I was off camera a little, sorry for this. Sometimes I end up like being too occupied by the work and not seeing the camera view. Yeah, and here you can see that it's like, it will dry, it will be just darker, but still, like, I think we have to reapply a little of that brighter color just to mix it together. Just with this one, maybe here it's better. Something in the middle. And now, like, do just to cover the difference here. It should combine a little better. Still, we have to show that shape of the roof. Yeah, something like this. And also going back to the so imagine this being like a limited light source and just like hitting the center part, yeah, and the rest is a little like in the darkness, maybe not darkness, but like in a gloomy blue light, something like this, yeah. So like when looking at this, you'll see that it will limit the view, yeah. I think it should be higher, so we can like add it here. Later on, I also thought about like maybe airbrushing it a little, but probably it could be done by brush, like this, yeah, just like random glazing. And see, by glazing we are blending in a little of those previous dots, so they are like less visible and less prominent. And also we can add that shadow on the other side, so just to boost the contrast of each of those plates. Like this light is falling from this direction, so we can fill in like here, yeah, a little in each of those, a little shadow, like a small shadow here and there, just to show that the roundness of each of those plates, and also the shadow like having a different hue. And that's something we will add later on also, when just like positioning the miniature, and the miniature will have like a bluish shadow, yeah, just to make it coherent. That's something that will be fast, but I have to attach the miniature, yeah, and so that's why we are like adding this here right now. Even if you end up like hitting something like I did here, it's not a problem. Yeah, just like on those parts also, a little of it. That's why I'm using like a weaker blue. If I would use the Chimera one, it would be too blue, honestly. It's way more pigmented. Even if you end up like diluting it, still it won't look good. Just diluted paint, and you can see that it adds so much contrast, yeah. And like looking from this side, I have to look at the original photo that I had. Probably it's even more of it, like it should be probably in this line here. So maybe like adding a little of it here. I intentionally don't take too much of the paint right now. Like I think that the amount of it like I have on the brush right now, it's still like damp, and like you can see, it's easy to shade with something like this, yeah. You can like boost the color, and the previous highlights that we've done are also like cool, because like we just are changing just the temperature, and they are still being visible from underneath the glaze, yeah. So just like if you have doubts, yeah? Just a little medium and very diluted paint, yeah? You can see like it's like very watery. It's just like a filter of color. It will darken stuff, but you will see like the changes pretty fast, yeah? And that's something I will use pretty heavily on the other side of the building right now. Yeah. Cool, here it fits. Just a little here. So maybe in those crevices here. On the back side of that raised part, probably I would end up to adding more highlight there. And you can see we're just like limiting the highlight, the normal light, yeah? So that's more of it. I'll probably end up like doing more of it here. Yeah. And here, just to limit the surface, yeah? Something like this. Here it got very saturated, honestly, but I think that's okay. We can manage it somehow, yeah? Maybe we can like add a little of that, like a brighter grayish blue, just to cover that difference. Something like this. Okay, so I think this part is ready. You can see it like being visible. We have that roof part. It will be a lot of that same like color, but she will be standing out from it. Yeah, she will be much more brown and like contrasting. Yeah, so you can see. I can show you by comparison for the character how she looks. Yeah. So she will be visible on this building, and that's something I'm aiming for. And I will try to limit the surface even more with the blue, just to generate that contrast. Yeah, just like when I attach it, her, I will see how it behaves. Yeah, because then we can like paint those shadows here from her, and it will be even less of the original color. And also like just like when I finish the whole, I will add some like streaks of. I will try to break the colors a little with something like this. Something like this. So just those two washes, like mix it together. So the green, black green, or something like this. So it will add some variety to that brown rock, like that we have on the miniature. So okay. So I hope you like this material and. Like I will see you in the next one, maybe more like a summary and just like adding some small finishing touches, but still I hope this will be interesting for you. So take care and have a nice day.